Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. As you know, come to you raw and uncut. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. All right, well, let me start with this. I am on a weekend vacation right now, and I'm not at home. And the internet where I'm at was hard to get on. But I finally did. I was able to see the show, and all right, and here's my review. SmackDown. All right, SmackDown, it was, okay, I mean, a lot of the stuff in here, I'm just gonna say some of the matches were pretty decent and everything, but it's just the storylines built up to the matches, or the storyline building up to, Survivor Series that's, will be here next weekend, after the Thanksgiving break and stuff. And it is, I mean, a lot of things just aren't making a lot of sense. And, it's sometimes it's hard to even watch the show. I mean, because you expect one thing and then something else happens, and all the matches that we have are really, predictable and stuff. But anyway, SmackDown. We start off with, Paul Heyman coming out to the ring, and he's talking about, the war games and, about there's 5 heroes that were, into the war games. And I'm sure he's thinking about the heroes with, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, and Brock Lesnar. And he's saying this stuff, and then, as he's talking, out comes Jimmy and Jey Uso. Because Paul Heyman had introduced Logan Paul. Logan Paul was about to say something, and then they come out. And then Paul Heyman, tells the Usos that now they done pissed Logan Paul off and stuff. We know the Usos don't really care whether or not they pissed him off or not, and Paul Heyman is telling, Jay and Jimmy, like, hey, there's 2 of you, we have 3 in the ring, so the number game is gonna do you and everything like it has, all the other times. But Jimmy says, look, you think we came to the ring, by ourselves? And we didn't. And then you hear Cody Rhodes' music coming on. So now we're expecting Cody to come out, and he never shows up. And so now they have a camera going backstage and everything at his bus, at Cody's bus. And here comes Drew McIntyre out of Cody's bus. And Drew had to beat the crap out of Cody Rhodes. So Cody Rhodes is laying, unconscious and stuff like that. Edge coming to him, and then Jay and Jimmy, they finally get there, ask if he's okay and stuff like that. So that went on and everything, and then we have, the first match, which is the open challenge match for the U.S. title. It's Ilja Dragunov, he'll be facing JD McDonaugh. I mean, it's like, I don't know, I don't want to rant and rave about it. I guess it is what it is. It is an open challenge match. Ilja Dragunov is the U.S. champion, whether you like it or not, and stuff like that. And, we know it's an open challenge, and whoever comes out, I mean, you can have guys from NXT come out, like Javon Evans, or maybe a Trick Williams, even Josh Briggs and stuff like that, They could even come out from NXT, for that challenge of the match. I mean, because if we're trying to bring up, or if they're trying to bring up and coming, wrestlers and for the future of WWE, I think they need to start doing that now, because what they have going on now, I mean, we have, Cody Rhodes, we do have Roman Reigns and stuff, and just right now, it's just not enough. These guys are, at the point to where they're about ready to, call it quits and stuff. But, I guess they bring the entertainment, but I think everybody brings entertainment, to the field. But I think, WWE and Triple H need to start looking at some of this new younger talent and start making names for them and stuff like that. If you agree, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Leave me a comment. Leave me a comment. And in this match, the Dragunov wins, with an H-bomb and stuff. So, and then we have Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, and Alexa's telling Charlotte, that she really needs to talk to Rhea Ripley and stuff, to try to get that situation, taken care of with them and stuff. And then you got Nick Aldis, talking to Paul Heyman, in the vision. He's letting them know that, hey, all the trouble that Paul's been causing and stuff like that, and that Drew McIntyre, regardless that the fact that he is in War Games, does not mean that he's still not suspended. So he is suspended and everything. So Drew won't be participating in any matches or anything like that, as far as that's concerned, because he is suspended, but he will show up in Survivor Series for War Games and stuff. So then we have Carmelo Hayes versus Bronson Reed. This is the first round, of the last, time tournament for John Cena, who he's going to face. This match, I have to say, it was good. I have to give Carmelo Hayes his props, because Carmelo Hayes is, he's been, I guess, with the WWE from NXT now, I guess, going on 2 years and stuff. He started out okay, having matches, but then they just dried him out, put him in, catering or something like that. And he wasn't really having a lot of stuff going on until him and Miz started getting together. And so now, he's in this tournament and stuff. And during the match, the vision came down. Carmelo Hayes and Bronson Reed were having a really good match. And as Carmelo Hayes got, up on Bronson Reed, then the vision comes down to the ring. And after that, then Carmelo Hayes throws Bronson Reed out of the ring. Carmelo Hayes jumps out of the ring. And then we know Braun Breaker, he's getting ready to do his crazy thing. And as he's getting ready to go around to try to spear Carmelo Hayes while Paul Heyman has the referee's attention, he gets super kicked in the face by Jey Uso. It was a sloppy kick to the face, but hey, it was a kick to the face. And then Jimmy jumps on Logan Paul and stuff. So they fight them guys out of the ring and stuff. And then out comes Cody Rhodes. He jumps on Bronson Reed and everything while Paul Heyman is still messing with the referee. And then he crossroads Bronson Reed, throws him into the ring. No, leaves him out. He throws Carmelo Hayes back into the ring. The referee turns around, counts 10, and Bronson Reed is counted out. Carmelo Hayes wins the match, and he'll be facing Gunther, I believe next week and everything in this tournament. Now I'm not saying that Gunther's going to win that match. I'm sure Gunther is, because I think in the word that Gunther's going to be the one who retires, Cody Rhodes, which I think is ridiculous and stuff. I think it should be somebody like Carmelo Hayes. I'm hoping that they'll put a wrench into it and stuff, and then that happens that way, that Carmelo Hayes is the one, or somebody new, somebody newer, somebody younger, that has talent, can talk on a mic, get that shot and stuff, And then as Cody comes, as that's happening, Cody just goes off and everything, and he's, telling that, that the Rhodes are better than the Steiners, and that's fact and stuff. He told Paul Heyman, you put you was with CM Punk, he was with Braun Breaker. I'm not Braun Breaker, but he was with Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. So he said, you know, you just put them together and I'll take them down, you know, and I'll beat them all, you know. So, and then that kind of more or less ended the segment. You know, Cody was really actually saying who he beat and how, you know, how he beat him. And then you got to figure that in all that, the faces are more of the stronger team. You know, you figure, you look at the vision and you're like, okay, they got dominance and everything, but none of them in the matches that were going on, you know, you figure Jey Uso, you know, he's beating Gunther. I mean, he's beating Bronson Reed and stuff like that. You know, I believe Jimmy has also. I know Cody has and stuff. You know, and then everybody's been fighting each other, but the baby faces have actually have the upper hand and stuff. So we move on and stuff. You know, we have a little backstage thing with Chelsea Green not. You know, she's putting her celebration thing on hold and everything for, you know, winning her U.S. title back and everything, saying that she's the best champion and everything. And then, you know, Jay Cargill comes out, you know, Chelsea swallows her tongue and walks away. All right, then we have Sami Zayn, Motor City Machine Gun. You know, Sami Zayn saying that, you know, the team that he has with the Motor City Machine Gun, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Ray Phoenix, you know, they're gonna, you know, take on the MFTs and stuff, you know, and beat them, you know, and they're gonna have like a regular style Survivor Series match where it's elimination and stuff, which I think is gonna be pretty good. So stay tuned for that next week. Then we have Fraxiom versus DIY. Match means nothing and stuff. DIY wins because of the interference of Candice LeRae by pulling the mask off of Axiom. And then Charlotte and Rhea, you know, they make amends and everything. You know, Rhea's telling Charlotte how much she respects her, and, you know, they've been through a lot of stuff and everything, been through a lot of matches, you know, against each other, you know, trying to figure out who's the better wrestler and everything like that. Well, we know Charlotte is as right now on paper because, you know, Charlotte Flair is a 14-time champion. Rhea Ripley's only won the title, I think, 2 or 3 times and stuff. So then we move on from that to the last time is now tournament, another round 1 match against Finn Balor and Penta. The match is okay, you know, even though Finn Balor tried to attack right at the bell, you know, on Penta and stuff. The match is pretty decent. Penta wins the match, you know, with the Mexican Destroyer and stuff, and he moves on to face Solo Sikoa, you know, in the 2nd round. And then you get the little segment, you know, with Solo Sikoa, you know, with the, you know, the MFTs and stuff like that. And he's basically more or less saying that, you know, he's going to beat Sammy down, you know, and after he does that, you know, he's going to beat him down for good and stuff. So he said he's going to put Penta down. They're going to win the elimination match, and then he's going to put Sami Zayn down and stuff for good. So we have to see how that works out and stuff. And then we have, you know, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, you know, Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. You know, this is the last segment, you know, of the show, which I guess is the main event segment. You know, Rhea's saying that she has to be with people that she can trust and that she trusts, you know, Io Sky, and that she, you know, kind of now, I guess, figure after the talk with, you know, Charlotte Flair. So now I guess she's trusting Charlotte Flair, you know, and Alexa Bliss and stuff. And then they say, hey, you know, do you want to know who our 5th member is? And as they announce the 5th member, which is AJ Lee, Becky Lynch comes out and she takes out AJ Lee, and then Lash Legend, Nia Jax, you know, and the Kabuki Warriors, they jump on Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, you know, Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. So, you know, and they laid them and they, you know, bust out and they're fighting and everything. And, you know, that's how the segment kind of ends, you know, with them, you know, brawling. And then you have, you know, Becky Lynch, Nia Jax, Lash Legend, and the Kabuki Warriors, you know, standing above, you know, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, Io Sky, and Rhea Ripley, and AJ Lee. And then the show goes off. So that's the show. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. Thank you for watching. God bless. Deuces. And I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.